Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am a little bit, still under the weather, but it's okay. I'm gonna do this tonight, and we're gonna, set ourselves up for a better future. And that is, we had some thrilling games today. I don't want to talk about all of them, but I'll talk about them. We'll get to it today. So, where do you want to begin? I don't know honestly. Let's just start with MLV, Major League Volleyball. Dallas has their head coach, Shannon Wisner, and Windsor's been around in the international scene in Canada and stuff like that for quite some time, and pretty big news, pretty big, for Dallas. We don't have anything for like schedules or Dallas's home arena for 2026. We don't have that yet, but Major League Volleyball is kind of keeping it quiet. League One volleyball has been everywhere as far as like the college circuit is concerned. They have been advertising pretty frequently on some of these college campuses, which leads me to believe some things. Leads me to believe that League One is definitely on a better track than Major League Volleyball right now, but honestly, it's kind of a 50-50 at this point. Yeah, MLV is, trying to continue to, gain momentum for themselves, but at the same time, it's like you may want to do something, a lot of signings, a lot of international tournaments are about to be done and over with, like five and the VNL and stuff like that, all that's pretty much done and over with. So a lot of players are now getting signed to not just us over here in the United States, but in other countries as well, as far as pros are concerned. So, not too much else I could really say there, as far as, well, yeah. I'll talk a little bit more about college in a moment because there is a lot I want to get to. AVP, again, did go to Frisco for a very intimate setting of probably about 600 people in total on that Saturday night edition of the AVP in Frisco, Texas. And the league finished up their season with Phil Dalhausser saying, "Oh no, I'm not retiring. I'm unretiring, and I'm coming back for 2026. Coming back." And he, and Trevor Crabb, could not win the Manhattan Beach Open. That honor went to Evans and Buttinger, who defeated them, in 3 sets. But they did beat Hagen Smith and Logan Weber for the men's title in the AVP League Championships, on the other hand. Now, I expected, Brasher and Nuss to win Manhattan Beach and the AVP League title. Instead, those two, Taryn Brasher, Christian Nuss, they decided to just win Manhattan Beach and let somebody else, Lexi Donlin, and Denneberg, they win the women's title over Wilkerson and Humana Paredes, in the AVP League Championship. So that was a bit of a surprise of those two winning the women's title. I did not expect that, but honestly, we kind of need something. There's promise, there for the AVP. Things kind of got interesting, late with some of these tournaments and stuff like that. So maybe, people are, warmed up a little bit more. But for the most part, 2025 was pretty much the same deal as it was in 2024 for the AVP, in which, it's like, it's an idea, but does it work? Probably not, but, we're just going to keep going with it anyway. So, yeah. So the numbers, for the CBS broadcast, and I think the CW broadcast were pretty good enough for the AVP. So they're happy about that, even though apparently they've been paying, to have time broadcasts and stuff like that on CW and stuff like that. But, it is what it is with the AVP League, and the AVP, they've got, I think, the Laguna Open, next Friday and Saturday. I think it's the Laguna Open as a contender a bit, and that should finish it up for the AVP League, and the AVP in general, for 2025, 2026 schedule will be somewhere. It'll be somewhere sometime, I don't know where, don't know when, but it's going to happen. We're going to, the Laguna Open, Laguna Open will be again next Friday and Saturday, contender event for next season, as far as getting more people in and stuff like that. It's and it's Sunday as well. Excuse me, it's Sunday. It'll be a Sunday event as well. I don't know why they didn't put that on there, initially, but yeah. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's going to be the 2025 Laguna Beach Open, for the AVP League. Other than that, really not much else I can really say about the AVP that hasn't already been said. It's continuing to run. At least still alive. At least we still have beach volleyball outdoors. Come on, that's a good thing. All right. Now let's get into the real meat, the real nitty gritty of things. Where do I even start? Why don't we start with Penn State? Because, oh my goodness. Arizona State, beat the brakes off of them. Izzy Starck said, nah, I'm good. I'm going to take a mental health break, and, which kudos to her. Mental health is always important. But at the same time, this Penn State team has not looked the same, and they got swept by Kentucky on Friday night, as well, which I was completely shocked by. Brooklyn DeLay has just been on a tear lately, and this Kentucky team is for real. They were able to battle Nebraska, keep them, on their toes, in a game that went 5 sets. They were able to keep Nebraska on their toes. Nebraska's still, doing Nebraska things. They beat Cal today in 3 sets. So, just FYI. Stanford's still pretty good. They gave Texas a scare today, though. A younger Stanford team, giving Texas a scare. Again, that Texas team is a pretty good team themselves, but they win 3-2. Again, Ella Rubin, there were about 30 errors, service errors from Stanford, but Carrie Spears and the rest of the crew, was able to get it done. They were able to get it done, in 5 sets. Did it need to go 5 sets? Not entirely, but it went 5 sets. Creighton also lost to USC in 3 sets today, which is very weird. Creighton, there's a group of teams that are like this, that are kind of just in this also weird space. I want to say Creighton, Kansas is one of them. Purdue, maybe. Okay, definitely Creighton and Kansas, because they've met twice already this year. They're in a weird space. Kansas has had every match go to 5 sets so far, which is insane to me. Pitt, had to rebound. I don't want to put Pitt in that, in that weird headspace too, where, they beat Arizona State in 3 sets, but, they lost to TCU. TCU has been a big surprise so far this year. My goodness, they beat the brakes off UCLA last night. They have big time matchups coming up, and it's gonna be really, really something to see. When you have Sarah Sylvester, Lauren Murphy, they've been going off, and others, Becca Kelly, Evan Hendricks, Alexis Robinson, this whole TCU team is actually for real. UCLA, just a bizarre team to look at right now. They're 1-3. I don't know what this UCLA team is right now. It's certainly not a good team, not a good one at all. But it is what it is at this point. Like, the fact that UCLA is 1-3 means a lot. We still have some big matchups, by the way, coming up over the next couple of weeks. Don't forget about Louisville either. They're still in the mix. This week is going to be huge. Again, Pitt, Kentucky. Delay versus Babcock. Pitt, having a little bit of a problem lately, but now because everybody else is starting to get involved, because again, those first couple games, Babcock was having like 60 swings, and that's kind of a bit too much. When you have your setters and liberos, just not coming up and doing what they're supposed to be doing, and helping set up for everybody else to get part of the pie. Again, this is a sport where you cannot just you got to have everybody in sync. One part, isn't in sync, everything else falls apart. And Pitt is a team that if things start to fall apart for them and the star player is doing pretty much everything and everybody else ain't doing nothing, that's a recipe for disaster. So this week, Pitt has to get it done. This is a big one. The Kentucky game is a big one. Louisville and Texas is going to be huge as well. It is going to be a top 5 matchup between the Louisville Cardinal and the Texas Longhorns. Louisville just beat Illinois 4 sets today. I thought it was going to be 3 sets, but 4 sets is fine. This Louisville team ain't no slouch either. We're not a slouch at all. Where do I begin with that team? Calissa Blackshear, my God. Kara Kreese, oh boy. Peyton Peterson, Just a unit. It's just a bunch of units on Louisville right now. And the matchups in Fort Worth, which I wish I could go. I really do. I wish I could go to Fort Worth. But that's going to be a logistical nightmare to get to there and get back, because who knows, the Texas Louisville game says it's going to start at 8 p.m., on ESPN, but honestly, if Pitt, Kentucky goes, like 2.5 hours, if it goes a full 5 sets, which I'm honestly thinking it could, it's going to be one of those matchups, I think, things would get a little bit weird, so I'm just not going to go, just not going to do that. That's a bit too much for me, Texas A&M also a team to really take a look at, keep your eyes on them. They have 2 big matchups this week. Tuesday night against SMU, Wednesday night against TCU. They beat Utah, this past Wednesday, and they just absolutely, utterly dominant, against Utah. I don't think I expected Utah to, contend the way they did. They tried their best, but, too much from the Aggies. And again, a real unit, because Texas A&M returned a lot of, their starters and stuff like that from that run last year. So, they're going to be in the mix. Is Penn State a top 5 team now? No, they're not going to be ranked in the top 5 tomorrow. I don't even think they're going to be ranked in the top 15, tomorrow. They might be like they might barely be 25 tomorrow. That's what I think. There's other teams as well that you have to keep an eye on, like Georgia Tech, Wisconsin too. Yeah, Wisconsin got swept by Texas, but gotta keep your eyes on them, in the Big Ten race, because Penn State being the way they have been, where they're hitting at a negative rate, and not, having the momentum that they should be carrying with them, because they lack the power that they should be having. Again, there's going to be some other teams to watch. Now USC has suddenly said they want to be in the mix too. So I don't know. The Big Ten is going to come down to Nebraska and somebody. It has to be somebody. Big 12, honestly, I don't even know at this point right now. SEC, finally looks like a real tough one. Don't forget about those Florida Gators. Oh boy, they swept Ohio State today. Jordan Bird. Oh, don't forget that name, because that is someone you need to watch out for. So you need to watch out for her because that Florida team, them, Kentucky, and Texas, that's going to be a sweet combination in the SEC. Again, there's an SEC tournament this year too. So just FYI, keep your eyes out, keep your eyes peeled because it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one, over the next couple of weeks. Yeah, there's going to be some interesting volleyball, over the next couple of weeks. Texas doesn't just have that matchup against Louisville. They also have a matchup against Arizona State, on next Sunday. That's going to be huge. Creighton, still in the mix. They're going to have a matchup against Louisville, Wisconsin, Georgia Tech also this week, Utah, Nebraska also this week. It's going to be huge. There's just a lot of good volleyball this week. Again, the highlights will be the ACC SEC challenge, basically, especially the games in Fort Worth. Those will definitely be huge as we continue to roll down the line to the national championship, in December, which the times officially got confirmed for the semifinals in the national championship. We already knew that. Most people already knew that. That's been set basically since the summertime. That the national championship is going to be on ABC at 2:00 Central Time. But the national semifinals will be at 5:30 and maybe about 8:00, on ESPN on Thursday night. So we already knew that. Like everybody should have known that already. If you didn't, I don't know why. The NCAA was like, all right, so let's send this out, on a random Thursday night, and tell everybody, hey, this is when the national championship is going to be. Like, we already knew that. You didn't have to tell us, but whatever, man. So, yeah, it's an interesting time to be a volleyball fan right now. I'm loving every second of it. Again, the past couple weeks have just been hitter after hitter after hitter. Labor Day weekend, absolutely beautiful volleyball. This week, going to be an amazing stretch. We had some games, this past week that were amazing. Just an amazing stretch of volleyball over these past couple of weeks, and I'm loving every second of it. And we got more craziness coming because, again, there's going to be so many top 25 matchups, and that's just the beauty of volleyball because, at least college volleyball anyway, the top teams facing each other all the time, and it's always producing banger after banger after banger after banger after banger. So, with that being said, I'm going to get on up out of here and hope you guys enjoy the rest of the first NFL Sunday because, man, some good games today in the NFL, but we'll talk about the NFL on Wednesday night. So, we'll talk some college football, on Tuesday night, get some NFL in on Wednesday. The WNBA playoffs are almost set, so I'm trying to find a way to get that video in, trying to find either Thursday or Friday night, either or. Honestly, it might be Friday, but I'm going to get it in before, anything else. But I wanted to get this done today because there was plenty of time in between NFL games today. So I was like, you know what, might as well get it in and talk volleyball today instead of tomorrow because tomorrow I got jury duty. So, I'm going to get on about y'all's hair, try and recover, from the sickness that I've probably gotten from, work and everything like that. But, get on out y'all's hair. Again, hope y'all have enjoyed the volleyball the past couple weeks. We have more volleyball over the next few weeks as well. That is just going to be amazing. And just keep rolling along for the ride. Big boy out.